Good afternoon. Welcome to our special Facebook Live series called Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. I'm the founder and principal strategist of Connexions. We have been coming live to you every day for about a week and a half now, as we talk about the changes and challenges that were all presented due to COVID-19. And so there's so many positive, so many uplifting stories, but we also know this is a very scary time for many people, for many businesses, whether you're the owner or you're working in a business, working from home. Good afternoon, Stephanie. Hello. Thank you guys for joining us. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Let me know this is coming through loud and clear. We know that right now this time is not easy. It is full of changes, full of challenges. Many of us in the business world are working from home. Many of you pulling double duty, parenting, homeschooling, and trying to get some work done and be productive. And so we're here to help. We're connecting our community by connecting you to the experts who have information. And I am so looking forward to today's conversation because this is a very good friend of mine and someone who has been sharing a lot of insights on social media. So join me in welcoming Amy Ogle. Amy is an integrative health coach, and she is also a homeschooling mom. So she has lots of insight and guidance for us as parents adjust to having their kids home during this pandemic. Amy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So okay, first of all, I know there's probably a total misconception that, Amy has a business, Amy homeschools her children. Amy's got it down, right? Amy used to be at home. She's used to having the kids. But I think it's fair to say, Amy, that it is not business as usual around your house. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's very fair to say. It's quite an adjustment for us. I mean, this is not your typical homeschool. Even when you are used to homeschooling, you don't stay at home 24/7. Like this is totally different for everyone right now. And there's so much different.
Oh. And the stress and the anxiety and the worries, the health concerns, the other concerns, I mean, you experience the full gamut of this, just like everyone else. And so I just wanted to say that right off the bat. This is not just business as usual. However, I believe that because of your background, especially being an integrative health coach and how you work with your clients, plus being a homeschooling mama, you have a lot of insights that I think will be relevant and will help our audience. And normally, we don't necessarily talk about parenting issues here on our Connexions page, but we know that many people are parents. Many of our clients are in this situation where they're trying to navigate all of this. So, Amy, let me first ask you, what is your number one tip for parents as they're navigating this?
Sure. So first and foremost, with the amount of information that we have out there, everyone has their own insights. We have tips coming at us, strategies, plans and schedules. Everybody's saying, oh, this is what works for my family. And despite all that information, what we have to remember is that just because it doesn't work for us does not mean that we are failing. Like we have to figure out what will work well for our family, our schedule. What you do for a living makes a difference as well. So take all those things in consideration, look at the different options that are out there, and then try to figure out what's going to work best for you and kind of go for there. So everybody and no one is an expert right now.
Yes. Oh, what a great way to put that. And you and I were talking, we talked quite a bit, but you and I were talking yesterday, and yesterday our guest on the show, so to speak, Andy Bailey, was talking about kind of distancing yourself from social media at times. And I think when it comes to parenting, the same thing is probably true because it probably runs the full gamut. I know if you're like me, you have friends who are really frustrated with the situation with their kids right now and work and everything else, and others who have this beautiful color-coded schedule. And it seems like everything's going just perfectly, that it's a breeze, even though it probably maybe isn't always, right? So what are your thoughts on what someone else is doing?
So some of it is going to be balanced, right? So we'll take a look at what our kids need to do, and we need to keep them busy. Otherwise, they're going to drive us absolutely crazy. And we can't get things done if the kids are bored, right? Just like we struggle to get things done when we're bored, right? So different challenges for different ages.
Yeah,
I
can
look
you
at
talk through some of the different ideas for different ages? Let's start with the young ones. What are some ideas to kind of help keep them busy, help keep them occupied mentally and maybe physically?
absolutely. So when it looks like education wise, there's a lot of information out there. A lot of companies are giving free 30 to 60 days worth of um, their, whatever their expertise is. So you have, for the littlest ones, you could have something like ABC Mouse. I believe they're doing a free trial right now. Um, and then the older kids, it would be something like Prodigy. High schoolers, Khan Academy is free. That's all online, but of course, we don't want to have our kids online 24/7 either. So we can utilize technology in a whole different way, which would be to keep them learning something new. For instance, uh, YouTube is great, but of course we need to monitor that and make sure that it's productive. Like time, it keeps them busy, and it works for all ages. You just have to make it to cut up their own banana by using a plastic knife, which is going to save you time too, which is great. They can start prepping some of the food that they eat. And then older kids, you can challenge them to learn how to use a knife to cut up like real vegetables. They can do some food prep for you. That's an extra bonus right there. You don't have to do it. And then they're learning something new as well. But it is really, you mentioned physical, so we do need to make sure that we're keeping them occupied in a physical way, and that's become more and more challenging. It's harder to get in sports when so many things are closed right now.
Mhm.
Parks, you have to be very careful. They don't actually want us having the kids play on playgrounds. So keeping them occupied outside isn't always an option that we have. Um, Playing in the yard is great, especially if they have siblings. They can keep an eye on each other. Um, but you may have to do things in home to keep them busy. For the littlest ones, that may mean pulling the cans out of the cupboard and just having them count them. Um, it's got a physical aspect to it, so they have to pull them out, count them, and put them back in. Or maybe if they're a little bit older, you have them rearrange put like things together. What are
I love
vegetables? What are
that.
fruits?
We all have a lot of cans right now too, right? So no
Yeah,
shortage of canned goods in our
yes,
homes.
yeah. I I'm not real big on the whole canned food thing, but at this time, we need to have those things on hand as a just in case,
Right.
right?
Right. You were sharing some ideas too, Amy, when we were talking about rearranging rooms. I thought that was such a great idea that even if a bedroom doesn't need to be rearranged, have your kid move things from one side of the room to the other or come up with a different way to put things on the shelves. I mean, things like that I wouldn't have even thought about that don't need to be done, but can certainly be done. And, line the books up in alphabetical order or order the books by the alphabetical order of the authors or all sorts of things like that keep them physically active but also using their brains.
Absolutely. And even going through things that they don't want to keep anymore. So the bookshelves are a great example of that. There may be books on the bookshelf that have sat there that are too young for them, or they've read through it and they didn't really care for that book. Now's a good time to have them sort out some of that. And of course, you might want to double check what the piles look like. But that's a great way to have them doing something physical, but it's also helpful at the same time. But rearranging furniture is a great physical activity that, like you said, even if it doesn't need to be done, is good to keep them occupied.
Well, and you talked too, and I thought this was so on point about, games are good, but we need to keep kids, we need to stimulate their brains. And I have a friend whose little girl, so adorable, said, "Mom, I'm really worried my brain's going to turn to mush before we go back to school." And I thought that was so sweet, so adorable. But also, and I'm not a doctor. I don't know that it's literally going to turn to mush, but we do want to be stimulating their brains because kids, I think, can be their most, how do I say this nicely? Well, we're talking to parents, so we don't need to, right? So like kids can really get on your nerves and drive you crazy when they are not being stimulated. When they have nothing better to do, they're going to push your buttons, right? And so what are some other ways that we can just really stimulate their brains? You talked about some really great ideas with screen time. And I know like by day 2, many of the parents in my news feed on Facebook were saying, forget about, screen time rules. Those have gone out the window already. But I love that you talked about some games that are more learning based and are going to use their brains. Are there other ideas or other things we should keep in mind when it comes to trying to capture their attention and keep their attention?
Oh, sure. So, the my brain has to start working again.
I know, me too, right?
The websites that I mentioned before are great for academics, but there are other ways to keep them occupied and still stimulate that. And places like zoos and museums are doing tours right now, which is wonderful. I mean, it's something different. Unfortunately, we can't be there. Of course, it would be best if we could be there and it could be hands-on. But it's a great option right now to keep them busy, and even if it's just for 20 minutes in the afternoon, it's a little bit of quiet time where they get to just watch, and it's something educational. The other
I
thing would be
love
just,
that. People of all ages too. I was emailing with a colleague who is in New York City, and she was telling me all of her adult children are home, and that it was a check-in email. How are you doing? And she said, "Oh, we're great. We're actually going to go to the symphony this afternoon, and then we're going to stop by this museum." All of which was happening virtually, on their computers. But I thought, okay, that's a really cool idea that we can all take these tours.
And it's keeping your emotional state in check as well, because you're virtually doing things that you would love to be able to go out and do, which is, it's wonderful. It keeps your mind off of.
Absolutely.
We do not want to be on social media all the time right now.
No.
There's unfortunately there's just too much negativity. Um, yeah, so those are great options, and of course things like um, whatever you have on hand. So having the kids tell you a story or write a story, or even allowing them to have a phone so they can record their own voice. Um, that's a great option, and they love to hear themselves back again. So when they get a little bit, um, when they finish, they will get to hear themselves, and kids just find that so cool.
That is really cool. So Stephanie says, great tips, Amy. Having the kiddos help with food prep and chores around the house to keep them engaged mentally and staying physical too. And it helps the parents. Spot on, Stephanie. Absolutely. And if any of you watching have tips, let us know. We'd love to see them in the comments, and we'll read them aloud and share them. Amy, one last thing I want to ask you about, because you are an integrative health coach, and so I know you work typically with adults, but you help entire families working on their health and nutrition. And so for all of us, we joke about the COVID-19, meaning 19 pounds, which I feel like I put on in the first day of being home, whether it's stress eating or just having all of this attention on food and feeling like now we have all this food in the house. I don't know what it is, mentally or physically, but how do you recommend that we find balance so that we really focus on our health, our physical health, whether it's putting on the weight or just we know that what we put in our bodies helps nourish our body. So how do we find that balance?
Absolutely. So when I first started homeschooling, one of the things that I had to set for myself and for the kids was that the kitchen was not open 24/7. Like we were going to have organized times of eating, and it can be flexible. It does not have to be the same time each day. But to have that mindset of I can just grab something whenever I want to can be a struggle for both adults and kids. And then also that the refrigerator door is not revolving.
Yeah.
We do not need to have it
Or the
open all the
freezer
time to
door.
grab.
I know
Or
someone
the
who needs
freezer
to
door.
stop having ice cream for dinner. Not going to say who, but
Yes. Yes, it is easy to get in that habit. And we're actually at a place of an advantage right now because of the fact that we don't want to be eating out all the time, right? So we can utilize this to make good habits for eating for our families and for ourselves. Um, so two thoughts are main meals and snacks, right? So with your main meals, the what we do in our family ordinarily is actually benefiting us through this time of self quarantine. We purchase our um, we purchase our groceries once a week. At the beginning of the week, we start going through and making meals and prepping for the items that go bad the fastest, of course. Fresh produce, we eat a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits. So we start with the ones that are going to go bad. Then we end up with the hardier things. So squash, zucchini, those things last a little bit longer. We'll work towards those. And then on to frozen. And last but not least would be the canned foods and the processed foods, which we're kind of keeping on hand just for emergency purposes. And I don't have any little ones, so I don't have anybody counting cans right now. but but they are there for emergency backup. And having that system, I don't have to set an exact meal plan because I feel like sometimes, and I don't know if this happens to you as well, if we are so rigid with a meal plan, we'll get to the time where we're supposed to eat that meatloaf day, or whatever. And it's like, oh, I really just don't want to eat that. So if I have a 3 day, 3 or 4 days where I'll fit in what I want during those days, the fresh foods, and then we'll go on to frozen foods. It gives me a little bit more flexibility, which I like.
I love that. What a great idea. And I really do think this is an opportunity. I love the idea of, your kitchen only has certain hours. That's a great idea. Like when the kitchen's closed, it's closed. So you better eat your
Yeah.
snack at the right time, or else you're waiting until the next time it's open. I also like you had shared a couple thoughts on social media. And I don't have little ones either, but I really thought these were great ideas. And one was, have certain snacks, healthy snacks, and put a price on them and have them be things that your kids are earning. So if they want that, those fruit snacks, or if they want that yogurt, and things are different prices. So if you do have the bag of Doritos, it's going to cost them more to earn those Doritos. And by costing more, maybe they're earning those dollars by doing chores around the house. So, and I think what I had read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like for the Doritos, for example, they had to do it cost more because they had to do physical activity in order to then earn the Doritos. So they're not just sitting around watching movies and eating Doritos all day. I thought, what a brilliant idea.
Yes. Yes. If you struggle with kids that don't quite understand the value of money too, this helps because they start to understand that they have to earn it just like mom and dad had to earn the money to buy that in the first place. So that's a twofold lesson, which is awesome. You love to get them multiple things going at the same time if you can.
Right.
But then also that they have choices, which was something that I loved about that was if you have chosen, certain things that you want them to be eating, like, because of course we don't want them eating the Doritos all the time, right? So they have a certain amount of things that they can have during the day as their option. So for my family, we don't do a lot of chips. The kids like a little bit of popcorn. But they do love bars, and I'm trying to be really picky with the like Lara bars and Nature Valley bars and things like that. One, because of the sugar content. We want to be keeping an eye on that. And then two, because they're not necessarily the most healthy snack that they could be eating. And I don't want to be paying for them to be, eating a bat's worth every day, because that gets to be costly. So we have a one bar a day rule, and then they also know what their choices are. If they haven't had their fruit yet, the fruit comes first. Things like that too. That
I
really
like that. And we have a comment here. So Sarah says, for the kids, I will put out 3 to 4 snacks in the morning, especially having young children that do not fully understand the concept of money. They get these snacks for the day between meals, and they know that once their snacks are gone, they are gone for the day. That's a really great idea too. I like that. So then they're also learning budgeting and not eating it all in the morning, because then they know by 3 in the afternoon they're going to be hungry and they're out of luck. So that's a really great idea. I like that, Sarah. I've also heard some parents saying that depending on the type of snack, maybe it's a fruit bowl, maybe they have, Amy, you had said certain bars, maybe it's yogurt, snacks that are within reach of the younger kids, so that they're not constantly being bothered all day while they're trying to work. The kids know that there are certain snacks that they're allowed to access at any time. You can't have too many apples. If you want another apple, have another apple. And I thought that was a great way too, to be able to give the kids a little independence. And Amy, like you had said, they have choices. They also now get to make their own decisions. If I'm hungry, I can just go grab an apple or an orange, and I don't even have to ask mom.
Mm-hmm. Or cheese stick or something else. Yes. And also with that, a nice idea, and I saw this online somewhere, is that you can have them decorate their own bowl, or a plastic bin, if you have plastic bins at home, where they put their name on it, and they can really make it theirs. That it also gives a craft idea that keeps them busy for a while as well.
I love that. What a fun and creative way to keep the kids busy, designing their own bowls. What a cool idea. Well, Amy, I think too, as we kind of wrap up here, and if you have any questions for Amy or any more feedback, feel free to comment with each other. We'll, of course, keep this video up for you so you can keep posting. But Amy, I think, one message that we've heard from pretty much every single expert we've talked to in this series is just remember to give yourself some grace. Know that you don't have to be a perfect parent, which is good, because no one is, right? No one's perfect all the time. So give yourself a pass, whether it's screen time or snacks, or, create your schedule. Do what feels best for you and your family, but then give yourself some leeway and flexibility to say, okay, today might not be the day where this is going to be my battle. Especially as, we're dealing with a global pandemic. So let's, face reality here and realize that one day won't hurt. Give yourself a pass. Any final thoughts, Amy, on that, or, any final words before we go?
Absolutely. And then I couldn't have said it better myself. And then the only other thing I would add to that is check in with the kids individually. I've been periodically doing that, because if you have more than one child at home, they may give you the answer that they just heard their brother or sister give. So go for a walk with them if you have time. I mean, well, most of us have time on our hands right now. But if you have a time, just take a few minutes, walk around the block with one of them, if doable, depending on age, to leave the other one at home. But to have that time to have that conversation with them individually, to make sure that they're feeling okay with all of this, because just like we don't know exactly what we're doing, they're feeling that as well. This is all new and different to them. Even if they're excited about parts of it, it's still, we're in very new territory, for sure.
That is for sure. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time. What is the best way for people to reach you if they want to stay in contact with you?
Oh, absolutely. So they can contact me at, for my email, it's amy@faithlovepineapples.com. Or you can feel free to follow me on Facebook at Faith, Love, and Pineapples, in Integrative Nutrition with Amy Ogle. So It's a great
Excellent. Amy, thank you so much. This has been so helpful. I really appreciate your tips and your time today. And thanks to your kiddos for being so well behaved for you to take some time to do this with us.
Thank you.
So our expert connections series will continue right here throughout the week, 1 o'clock Eastern each day. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking with Lori Lonsdorf from the Small Business Development Center. And so we're switching back to some more business-related topics tomorrow. Lori's going to join us. She's going to be available to answer your questions live. She's going to talk about the resources that we know are available for small businesses. We can talk about what's in the pipeline, what may be coming. So if you have any questions about resources and how to get your business through this time, Lori is our go-to. She has been a trusted advisor of Connections for a long time, and so I think you're really going to enjoy the insight and expertise that Lori brings to the conversation. So that is tomorrow right here at 1 o'clock. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you then. Thank you. Take care.